For 10 years, no one from her family in Connecticut said her name out loud. It wasn't an argument that caused it, or a dramatic falling out. It was quieter than that, more cruel in its silence. After her husband, Thomas, passed away unexpectedly, she became invisible. At first, people checked in. Short calls. Polite messages. Let us know if you need anything. Then weeks passed. Then months. Eventually, even those empty words stopped coming. She noticed it in small ways. The family group chat still existed, but no one replied when she sent a message. Photos of gatherings appeared on social media, Thanksgiving dinners, summer barbecues, faces she recognized, tables she once sat at. She wasn't invited. When she gently asked why, the replies were vague. "Oh, we thought you were busy." It was last minute. After a while, she stopped asking. Her name is Eleanor, though no one called her that anymore. In town, she was simply Thomas's wife, and then not even that. The neighbors waved politely but never lingered. Friends drifted away when grief made her quieter, slower, less convenient. Loneliness wrapped around her days like Connecticut winter fog, thick, cold, and impossible to escape. What no one saw was what happened behind her closed door. Eleanor had never been loud, but she was observant. During her marriage, Thomas handled the conversations while she handled the details. She read contracts carefully. She remembered numbers. She understood patterns. When he fell ill, she sat beside him as he whispered things he had never told anyone else. Accounts, properties, investments started decades earlier with partners whose names had faded from memory. He trusted her, not because she was weak, but because she was steady. After his death, people assumed she would sell everything and struggle. They whispered about how long she'd last alone. They offered sympathy, not respect. Eleanor let them believe it. Every month, rent checks from old properties arrived. She never spent extravagantly. She lived modestly, wearing the same coats, driving the same car. She wanted to see who would notice. No one did. When family members needed help, they didn't call her, they talked about her. She probably doesn't have much, they'd say. She's barely managing. That hurt more than the silence. On her birthday, year after year, she waited. Not for gifts, just a message. One year, she baked her own cake and ate it alone, the candles melting into wax while the phone stayed dark. That night, she cried for the last time over people who forgot her. Something hardened then, not into bitterness, but into clarity. She began organizing everything. Documents were labeled. Accounts consolidated. She attended financial seminars quietly, sitting in the back, taking notes. She learned how money moves, how it hides, how it grows when left alone. While others lived loudly, she lived precisely. Sometimes, she passed her sister-in-law at the grocery store. They exchanged awkward smiles. "We should get together sometime," the woman said, already walking away. Eleanor nodded, knowing it would never happen. She was no longer part of their future plans. She was a footnote. At night, she sat at the small desk by her window, watching snow fall onto streets she no longer felt connected to. She realized something unsettling but freeing: no one was watching her. No one cared what choices she made. And that meant she was finally, completely free. The loneliness hadn't broken her. It had trained her. By the time Eleanor made the decision, it didn't feel dramatic. It felt inevitable. The money had been growing quietly for years, like roots spreading underground. Properties Thomas had purchased in the early days, ones the family barely remembered, were now worth several times their original value. A small logistics company he'd invested in as a favor to a friend had expanded across state lines. Dividends came in steadily, predictably. Eleanor never rushed them. She let time do the work for her, the same way time had revealed who truly cared and who never did. What surprised her most was how easy it was to remain unseen. No one asked questions. No one checked in. When she mentioned repairs or paperwork at the occasional family encounter, they nodded politely, clearly uninterested. In their minds, she was a struggling widow clinging to the past. That assumption protected her better than any lock. She began meeting with professionals, quietly, methodically. A lawyer in New Haven who spoke more than he smiled. A financial advisor who respected silence. She never told them her whole story, only what was necessary. Piece by piece, her life became organized into folders and plans instead of memories and regrets. Trusts were formed. Assets were moved. Names were removed. The day she decided to sell the family home, she stood in the doorway for a long time. That house had once been loud with conversation, arguments, laughter, and Sunday mornings. It had also been where the phone stopped ringing, where holidays became just another day. Letting it go didn't feel like loss anymore. It felt like closing a chapter that no one else had bothered to read. The sale went quickly. So did the others. Properties changed hands. Accounts shifted. Eleanor signed documents with steady hands. Each signature felt like a quiet goodbye, not to people, but to the version of herself who waited to be remembered. The letter was the last step. It was brief, formal, and unemotional. Her lawyer sent it to the family on her behalf. It stated that her estate had been restructured, that her assets were no longer distributed as previously assumed, and that future inquiries should be directed through legal channels only. No explanations. No accusations. Just facts. The reaction was immediate. Phone calls flooded in, missed calls at first, then voicemails. Confusion turned into urgency. Urgency turned into panic. They asked where she was. They asked what she was doing. Some sounded worried. Others sounded angry. A few suddenly remembered her name. Eleanor listened to none of them. She had already closed her accounts, cancelled her local utilities, and sold her car. The neighbors watched as a moving truck arrived, surprised that someone they barely noticed was leaving at all. She didn't tell them goodbye. She didn't feel the need to explain. On her final night in Connecticut, she slept peacefully for the first time in years. No waiting. No hoping. No disappointment. Just silence, and this time, it was her choice. When morning came, she left without looking back. They would later say she vanished. That she disappeared with millions. That she was cruel for not telling anyone. But Eleanor knew the truth. You can't disappear from a place you were already erased from. You can't abandon people who abandoned you first.